Hello and welcome to my Shazam review. I saw this movie a couple of days ago now, and at first I wasn't really planning on seeing it because the movie just didn't seem like a movie I would enjoy. But then I heard from some people that the movie was actually pretty great, so I went out to see it, and I'm very happy that I saw this movie in the cinema. I'm very glad with how this movie turned out. So yeah, let's get into why I like this movie so much. So for me, the reason why I wasn't really looking forward to this movie was because of Shazam itself. I don't really like superheroes with fantastical superpowers. I'm a Batman fan, as you can see, and I like Batman because he doesn't really have powers. For me, movies in general, I don't really like fantasy movies. So I was probably gonna skip this movie. Then yeah, I heard lots of positive things, so I went out to see it, but I was scared that it was gonna be too much of a Marvel movie. I do like some of the Marvel movies, but pretty much like 90% of them just don't click with me. Same for the comics, I just don't like the Marvel comics. So I was pretty terrified that the movie would be more like it, and yeah, at some points it is. But it's also a lot darker than I expected. Lots of scenes that aren't in the trailers were way more violent in a good way. So I was happy to see that. And the jokes overall worked really well, except in the last act. But I will go into that later on when I will talk about spoilers. But just some of the jokes got me out of the movie near the end of the movie. But yeah, the story is great. They do some original twists, which I didn't expect with the mother of Bailey Batson. The foster children work really well, except they maybe could have been fleshed out a little bit, and some of them act in a way that children wouldn't act. For example, the fat one, Pedro, he just... I have never ever met a kid that acts the way that he does. So they felt like it felt unnatural. So that's pretty much my only dislike with the children. The acting was great, luckily. Yeah, overall, just they did a really good job. The villain is really nice. I always liked Mark Strong, but also his superpowers, which I won't spoil since it wasn't in the trailers, was really great, and how they executed it was really great. And I also liked that it wasn't a villain that made stupid mistakes. The villain did pretty much everything he could right, except for the opening maybe, but that's just how you look at it. But it wasn't a stupid villain, it was a menacing villain, and that was just great to see. And then of course we come to Zachary Levi, who played Shazam, and he was great. I always liked Zachary Levi from Chuck. I liked him in the Psych movie. I followed him on Nerdist. I always wanted to see more of him in big budget movies, and I'm hoping it's gonna happen now because yeah, he was great. He played the part really well. And then near the end of the movie, they do something that also happens in the comics, and I saw some familiar faces there as well. So that was a nice thing to see, but if you aren't watching lots of television and movies, then probably you don't really care. But yeah, I had lots of fun with this movie, except for some jokes near the end. The action was good, the acting was good, the villain was good. So yeah, overall I had way more fun with this than, for example, Wonder Woman. That movie just didn't click with me. So I'm very happy that I saw this movie, and I would give it about a 7.5. The reason why I don't give it higher is because what I'm gonna talk about in the spoiler section. But yeah, it's directed very well. I hope to see more of this, and apparently there's gonna be more of this, so that's great. So yeah, highly recommend go out and see this movie. And yeah, let's get into the spoilers. So in the spoiler section, I'm gonna talk about certain things that bothered me a little bit. So yeah, Dr. Savannah has the 7 sins, and you have the boardroom scene, which most people talked about, I've seen. But it's just like, they shot it in a pretty violent way, but they also don't really show much since they want to be PG-13. That just made it feel out of place to me a little bit. I was just wishing that there was at least a little bit of blood, but yeah, maybe that's just me, but I like horror. So if they do a scene like that, especially with a director that has a background in horror, I want to see a little bit more. But still a great scene. The things that I found a little bit more annoying were the product placement of especially Razor. At first the Chinese guy had a Razer headset on. I was like, yeah, that's probably also a pretty big chance that he has one in real life. But then also the Razer phone, and I was like, oh, okay, it's just, that's a little bit much. And then it became obvious it was product placement, so that bothered me a little bit. One thing I really liked was some Easter eggs in there with Annabelle. Because the director directed Annabelle creation, so that was cool to see. And of course Big, because that's a pretty obvious one, and there are maybe also a couple of ones that I missed. So, but yeah, it was just good to see that the Easter eggs weren't like annoying ones. It didn't get you out of the movie, so that was good. But then there were two things that really bothered me. The first thing involves that thing over there, the batarang. So there's a scene where Mark Strong gets hit in the back of his head when the 7 sins are out, and he gets a cut there. Then when the 7 sins go in, the bleeding stops and the wound heals. So Shazam looked at that, and you saw him looking like... So his facial reaction showed that he definitely saw it. So I thought, okay, so now he knows, get the 7 sins out and then you can beat him, because then he doesn't really have powers. But no, he didn't get it. But then later on in the movie, the other guy, I forget the name, not Billy, but his friend with the blue hat on, and the one that's a little bit crippled. He knows that the wound didn't heal with the batarang when he threw it. But if you remember that scene, Mark Strong's character was looking at all the other children except for Billy. Billy was the one behind him as Shazam. So the child with the blue hat on couldn't have seen that wound heal again. Only Shazam could. So that was just a continuity error that got me out of the movie a little bit, but that's probably gonna be just me. The other thing is, during the final fight, there were two things that I didn't like. One is some of the jokes, especially the one where they are flying to the city, Dr. Savannah and Shazam. Then Shazam stops and they are like a couple hundred meters away from each other, and they can't hear each other while Savannah, Mark Strong's character, is doing his speech. And yeah, I know that's probably how it would work in real life if superheroes were real, but it's just, it's stupid. Just do the scene. Like, for me, it got the same feeling then in The Last Jedi, when they were making jokes while they were shooting at the hologram of Luke Skywalker, and I was like, it got me out of the movie there, and it got me really annoyed, and had the exact same effect in this movie. So I think just in the third act, especially near the end of the third act, that they need to tone down the jokes a lot. So I would want to have seen that. The other thing is when the family, all the other children, the foster children, also turn into Shazam. That was the place where I saw people that I recognized from other things, like DJ, who is in From Dusk Till Dawn, the television series. He plays one of the Gecko brothers. He plays George Clooney's part, and I think her name is Megan Good, who was in Californication and stuff like that. So that was fun to see. But the annoying part was that throughout the whole movie, you see Shazam learning his powers, learning how to use them, and it takes him a while. Then with these foster children, they instantly know how to run fast, how to fly, which took Shazam a long time, how to use their electricity powers. They instantly become like good Shazams. So how do they know it? That's just, That's weird. Maybe it's understandable that the blue one would know since he's a comic book fan, but the others, it goes against the rest of the movie pretty much. So I really didn't like that happened. I get why they did it, but it just felt a little bit weird. And one final good thing that I forgot, the soundtrack is also really nice. It really feels like a 80s and 90s superhero soundtrack instead of a new one, but there are modern elements in it as well. So yeah, I was really happy with that. But yeah, as I said, I gave this movie a 7.5. I just hope that DC isn't going to do this with all their movies. Like certain characters this style works with, for example Aquaman and maybe The Flash. Though we heard that the actor of The Flash wanted it to be a dark movie, but apparently he's fired now, so who knows what's gonna happen there. But please, like, keep things like Batman just dark and broody. Like, I know maybe many people don't like it, but that's just how I always liked him. So yeah, that's just a personal thing. If you like the more fun and colorful thing, this is a great movie. So yeah, it's pretty much recommended for everybody. Oh, and last thing, so as you can see, this is pretty much a new setup. I'm trying to make everything look better. The only thing for me, the major thing, is this microphone. I want to have it off screen. I have a shotgun mic, but every time I hang a mic above me, so it was out of the frame, the audio was really bad, since the audio here, the room here has lots of straight walls that aren't audio treated, and I can't audio treat them. So there was lots of reverb. So I'm gonna try and fix it. I'm gonna tinker around with things. For in the meantime, this is the way how I must record it. But yeah, if you have any tips on stuff like that, please let me know. But yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.